into the Thursday, August 6th, 2020 edition of the Clemson Dubcast. Clemson's football team. Why am I talking in such a fast, clipped fashion? Not sure. TigerIllustrated.com inundated with football coverage, analysis, and some news yesterday with Xavier Thomas's absence from the weigh-in. Planning on getting more insight on that later today. A new special being offered at TigerIllustrated.com. 1 year for $1. Is that right? That is right. $1. Pretty awesome stuff. Check it out. Title sponsor of the Dubcast since the very beginning, back in August of 2018, Parham Smith & Archenhold Law Firm in downtown Greenville. They want you to know that their office remains open and available to serve you during the COVID-19 crisis. They are also offering their clients the ability to meet via telephone or through video conferencing. Whether you have a loved one who has suffered from a car accident, defective product, a neglectful nursing home facility, or medical malpractice issue, Parham Smith & Archenhold's Greenville lawyers can provide the protection and guidance you need. Free consultations, 864-990-4581, or on the web at parhamlaw.com. That's Parham law.com. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith & Archenhold. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Okay, to our conversation with Landon Walker. Man, he has got a lot going on. He has a second child on the way. He has a second job in addition to his NASCAR pit crew responsibilities. Runs a trucking company comprised of 35 drivers driving 18-wheelers. Really impressive stuff. Fun conversation here. Hope you enjoy. Okay, joined by Landon Walker. Landon, I've been laughing hysterically all day at this. I don't. You might not have seen this, but it's an old video that's been circulating. Somebody sent it to me. I think it was from Facebook, but it's an old boat trailer race.
Yeah.
Have you seen this thing?
I don't think I know what it is exactly.
Okay. I'm gonna have to send it to you because it's hysterical.
Yeah, do that.
It's an old not dirt track, but a small track, and it looks to be from like the 80s or 90s, and it's got these basically cars pulling boats around a track as maybe like some promotion or something, some side promotion.
Yeah.
But it's hysterical, absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, send it to me for sure. I'd love to see that. Will
do. Well, that's a good sort of transition into what you've been doing as a career for quite a while now, man. Good for absolutely. You for finding your niche.
Yeah, man.
How are things going?
Good, brother. Good. Oh man, we got a lot to talk about to catch up, I guess. But I hadn't spoken with you in a long time, and I know that like I said, there's been a lot of things that have taken place since I left Clemson, but. It's great, man. It's so funny because when I left home for the first time, I never would have thought that when I would have been go to play football at Clemson, I never thought that I would have wound up in racing of all sports and all industries, being a pit crew member. But man, what a wild turn of events. I think it kind of, I go back in my head to now it's not the best memory as a Clemson football player, I'll say, playing the Meineke Car Care Bowl in Charlotte. And, those weren't the best times as a Clemson guy, I guess. We were trying to find our niche, right? But, we played the Car Care Bowl, and we had we did like you probably remember covering it probably. We did like the NASCAR experience around the Charlotte track.
Yep, we were there.
Yeah, that's right. And so just going back to that, I knew that was kind of like I had, knew about racing and been a lot, part of my life growing up in Wilkesboro. And that was sort of like the first instant moment. And I think there was a pit crew guy for one of the teams there who was kind of like saying to us, hey, if you guys ever want to get into this after football, and I kind of was like, whatever, man, I'm an NFL guy, no question. And so, you just funny how you shrug things off like that. And never really thought much about it after that, but that was like initial, just I guess, just finding out a little bit about it, because I think there was like a tire changing competition at that deal, and I just remember that, and it was just kind of my first little introduction to it. And anyway, I kind of learned a little bit about it there, and went from there to after Clemson and the NFL thing, I felt my physical in Cincinnati. It just kind of happened, man. It's crazy how it went down, but it just sort of fell into place, I suppose.
Did you have an injury or something?
So, yeah, I don't know if you remember my meniscus tear when I was a freshman. When I was not even a freshman, I was as green freshman as I could have been. I was just had got to Clemson. Well, in the spring of 2007. That's right. You remember better than I do. And so I tore my meniscus there in the spring. They redshirted me and never missed, a game because of that or anything like that. But then I had it cleaned out again, scope before my senior year. No big deal, just a scope. And then, Cincinnati failed my physical because of arthritis built up from the surgery. And it was kind of that was a little bit, I don't know what the heck is this, type of deal. But, it happened. And I went from Cincinnati and came down to Charlotte, and, pit crew coach gave me a call. I don't know how the heck he got my number. Hendrick. And he called me, and then I had a Stuart Haas guy call me, and I was like, man, I'm being recruited all over again. So it was kind of funny how it happened. And then, I just when I went to the complex over here in Charlotte or Concord, whatever, just seeing everything for the first time was kind of like being at college at Clemson for the first time again. Just when you're out there at practice and you see all the as fast as they're playing, as fast as the offense seems, as the defense seems, you're like, man, there's no way I could ever compete in this atmosphere,
So it's interesting. I guess it was or is a routine for them to sort of monitor the wires and see who's been cut, and to give them like from football teams, or they
sort of, yeah, Larry. They have like a program now where now it's sort of bottlenecked at this point in time, 7 or 8 years into it, just because they have so many athletes on campus now. But we have a coach at Hendrick who was a former scout for the Dolphins. He was a former, I don't know. He was a coach at UNC Chapel Hill. He wasn't assistant coach per se. His name is Christopher Berkey, but he was there at Chapel Hill. He's been along some programs, and his thing is recruiting. He's a good recruiter, and he was basically become a pit coach, and I don't know how he got into it, but that's his job, is to recruit guys and, to coach us at this level. And now he's like the head coach. He was kind of more of a recruiter when I got into it there, but as a coach, but now he's like the head guy. So he's definitely that was his thing, man. He wanted football players who necessarily didn't make it to the league, guys coming out of the league after a year or two, that type of player is what he was looking for.
Was it hard for you to give up football? Or was it an abrupt kind of thing?
It's funny, man, because that's a good question. Because I'm not answering that question a lot, to be honest with you. At first, it wasn't because I had played football, Larry, for since I was in third grade, and it just felt like it was done. It's weird because it was like I was at that point in my life where I'm like, I wanted it. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to play at the next level bad, but that first initial rejection, which, man, that's really nothing, to be honest with you, because there's guys that have been and gotten rejected 4, 5, 6 times and just kept going. But that first initial rejection was like, man, maybe the game's done with me, and that's kind of how I felt. And so when I came down to Charlotte, and this is kind of like in the middle of me trying to figure out what I was going to do with the NFL and everything, that I got a call from Hendrick Motorsports. So it was kind of like hey, maybe I should just look and see what this is about type of deal. So anyway, to answer your question, the first year I didn't really miss it as much. And I was like, but I was weird about it. Okay. I didn't want to watch it as much either, because I knew I would miss it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I knew if I watched it a lot, as hard as it was not to watch Clemson play a lot that year, and I knew my brothers were out there that I just played with for 4 years. It almost made me like it just itched inside that I wasn't out there with them. It was very hard for me to watch them on Saturdays, and I did tune in a little bit, but it was hard. And I didn't watch any NFL because I was very, I don't know what the word is, kind of just. I was just pissed off, I guess, for lack of better words. But and I couldn't watch it. But after that, man, I tell you, the second year into the sport of NASCAR, which I was enjoying my job, I was having fun. I really started to miss it, and after, I guess, being removed from it for a year, it started to wear on me.
It's interesting. I was interviewing Mason Cloy a few weeks ago, and a bit of a different type of spin on it, but he said that coming back to go to a game was a very uncomfortable experience for him, kind of an out-of-body experience. He just didn't feel comfortable sitting there, like watching it, as and not participating in it. Just he said it was very, very strange and something he really didn't want to experience again. Just weird.
I can resonate with that because, I definitely had the same feeling, and I had the unfortunate experience because, obviously, like I said, I didn't watch a lot my first year out. And then my second year, I missed it and was like, man, I really want to go see a game. And because of the schedule with NASCAR, it was rare. I think I went to one game that year, and that's kind of been what I've gotten to, really much go to since then. So it's been like one game a year at home. But, that first game back, I think it was like, they may have been playing NC State. I can't remember. And, man, it was tough. I can agree with Mason, man. It was tough. I sat there and I felt like, you're such a part of something for so long, and then you're just a guy in the stands, right? And I know that it's every player goes through it, but I didn't take a sideline pass, which I probably could have got one from Coach Sweeney and those guys. I think I ended up getting passes or buying tickets. I don't remember how I got in the game. I can't remember this time, but it was just me and my wife and a couple friends, and it was a weird experience. I have to agree with Mason on that. It was just really out of body, sort of like, I don't belong in the stands. I need to be out there on the field or I don't know, man. I wanted to coach them up or something. I just wanted to be involved. It was very, very strange.
And you mentioned it when you said that the pit crew guy at the racing experience deal before the Meineke Bowl, you sort of blew him off because in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm going to play in the NFL for 10 years and okay, I'll give you a call, whatever. It's like at that age, like who is mentally equipped to prepare to totally change your identity? Yeah. At the drop of a hat. I mean, most of you guys who have been the best player on the field for most of your lives are just not thinking in those terms. Yeah,
that's a good point. You're not, man. You're not. And when you're at a program like Clemson, even though we weren't having the best, the success that they've seen recently, you still feel like you're at a top program. You know what I mean? And even though, like I said, we're not going to a national championship every year, you still have those thoughts. Hey, I'm at the best program here in one of the best colleges there is in the country, no matter what, because it was Clemson. And, that thought, of course, is in the back of your head. Like, man, if I'm going to play in the NFL or I got an opportunity to do something special here. And you just don't, like I said, we're so programmed to play football our whole lives. And it's not a bad thing by no means because, we can get off on football here. I can talk football, forever. But football, and Coach Sweeney attests to it every time he does almost an interview, how great it is for developing character and making you a man. And I shouldn't just say a man because if a woman wanted to play, she could, right? But I'm just saying it creates, you find out who you are. You find out what you're about in that game. And, you get lost in it. And I did. I got lost in it and I wanted to do whatever I had to do to go to the next level. But I think that's pretty natural as an athlete. I think you want to see yourself rise to the very top of the sport. I think that's what it's all about.
So you've been with Hendrick the whole time, right?
Yeah, I've been with Hendrick Motorsports since I got out. And, it's a blessing, man. It's because I really, if I had to start with another team, there's probably a good chance that I probably wouldn't be in it still just because the other environments at the race teams. And it's not all like Hendrick Motorsports. Hendrick Motorsports is a very, it's a place that's really more about the people, and they create a really good atmosphere to work in. And, I just feel like that, they just get it. And there's a lot of guys that I work with as well that have played Division I football and understand that the grind. They understand the ups and downs of the game and what the pressure that it takes to play under that type of, in that type of atmosphere. And I could go on and on. It's just a great place to work as an ex-athlete in college. So
you were just in New Hampshire?
Yeah, we just got out of New Hampshire this past weekend. Yeah.
Y'all finished 11th, the 24 car?
Yeah, man, it was a decent run. And, you're talking about the way your car runs. And I know that's what our livelihoods are. And that's kind of what I mostly based everything off of. But it's so funny because, I don't know, you talked with Tig a little while ago, right? And I don't know if Tig mentioned this to you, but the way a car runs in racing, and I'm not going to by no means say it doesn't matter, because it matters. Okay. And it matters everything you can gain in points. You're in it for everything, right? Trying to gain the points and trying to do the best you can to position the car, as high as we can. That's our job. Right. And so, but the difference, I guess, is when you're on a pit crew, especially being a fueler, you're more like a kicker on a football team. That's the best metaphor for our position. And, that the kickers are not, unfortunately, not the most, loved guys on the field. Now, don't get me wrong. We've had kickers at Clemson that are really loved by the fan base, Cat and Zorro, those types of guys, that are just, they go in and people know who they are. They appreciate it and they respect them because they don't miss kicks. Right. But if Catman goes in there to the game and he's missing kicks left and right, he's not a very much like guy. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm trying to kind of put together is, as a pit crew, you got 5 chances a race, 5 opportunities. And if you have 3 out of 5 stops that are good, it's really not a good race. And if you have 4 out of 5 that are good, and the 5th one is the last one, then it sucked. Then you didn't have a good day, even though the first 4 were good. So it's a very interesting sport, because it's you try not to think about the car position, because you really don't want to, because the more you think about where the car is on the track and the more you think about how the car is affected by the stop, you start to feel that pressure. And that's the last thing you want to do. You won't want to think about what the car, what happens to the car, when you leave or go. You really just want to do the best job you can. And, as at our level, that's probably going to end up in a good way if you do the best job you can.
So what's a bad stop for, describe it to me?
Bad pit stop would be,
for you,
as far as for me, it would probably be, the worst case scenario would be not getting the car full of gas. And that really would be, that's not good, because what that does is that would throw everything off, because the whole race is built around strategy, especially when you go to tracks like we're going to this weekend in Michigan. They gas mileage the heck out of some of these races and fuel mileage the heck out of them. So that what I mean by that is you're running it to the car till it basically is out of fuel, and you're coming in and filling it up again, and you're running it till it's out of fuel again. And then you have to make it from that point to the end of the race. And if for some reason it's not full at any of those point junctures of the day, then you screwed it up. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to have it to T, or if it's a lap here short or lap to, not there, then it creates problems. So, these engineers they have the strategy worked out, like I said, down to the centimeter of where we're supposed to be all day. And it may not be always a fuel mileage race. Tires play a factor in a lot of racetracks, but this weekend it doesn't, Michigan. But like I said, there's a lot of ways that, I could, I don't know, kick a tire the wrong way, do something like that, cost us a penalty. If I was to cause us a penalty and have the car to have to go to the tail end of the field, that's a bad deal. Because track position is so important nowadays in the sport that, because it's so hard to pass. It's very hard to pass on the racetrack, and the harder it is to pass, the more important obviously makes pit road. When you come down pit road, you can't lose any spots, and so, like I said, the pit crew is really, like I said, we are literally kickers. I mean, that's the best explanation or best metaphor I can pin on us.
Also, maybe kind of like an offensive lineman in that people only really notice when you're not doing your job.
So within the kicker group, which I'm in, I'm the offensive lineman. Okay. I'm the gas man. Okay. So they're making me the offensive lineman. The rest of the guys are more skill guys than I am. So they're more premium kickers because they control the speed of the stop. I'm more of the offensive lineman. They're more like the skill position kicker, if that makes any sense. And I'm the offensive lineman because I'm the guy who, he's doing his job. But the time that you notice him is when he gives up the sack. As long as he's doing his job and the ball just keeps going 5 yards at a time, nobody really pays attention to how he made the block. Or, the quarterback throwing that 60-yard pass, nobody really knows that, really pays attention to the guy that got pushed away from him 2 seconds before. It's the guy in his face when he throws the ball, knocks it down, and there's a pick somehow. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what that's a good point that you made. So that's definitely true.
It's funny you mentioned kickers. I was interviewing Dawson Zimmerman last week, and he
man,
mentioned,
I can't follow Dawson Zimmerman.
What's that? Yeah,
I said I hate to follow Dawson Zimmerman, man. You should have told me to check on my grammar real quick.
He's an English teacher. Yeah, that's right.
I know. He was my roommate.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's very cool. He asked him for his favorite memory, and he said, we were. He said it was the Gator Bowl in 2008, still on campus bowl practices. He said it's December, and it's really cold, and we had finished up our kicking for the day, and we were just frigid, and so we go behind the equipment shed, and Mark Buckholtz and Jimmy Manners brought some lighter fluid or something, and we start a fire, and we're sitting there basically around a campfire, keeping ourselves warm during practice. And I'm like, man, specialists, you just can't make that up. No wonder people can't stand you guys.
You can't just make it up. But the fact that Jimmy Manners was there involved in making a campfire is pretty much the theory, that whole theme of that story. And Buckholtz was involved, of course. But, Manners, it was probably one of my favorite guys to be on a team with. And I'll tell you why. We would come around on the buses to the hill, and of all things, like I didn't know Jimmy from anyone my first year until I kind of got to know him. And he would bang on the windows every single time we turn the corner right there coming around to the rock, and he would yell, "Feed it to the dogs," as loud as he could every time. And he did it every Saturday. And Jimmy and I kind of giggled, man. I couldn't help it. Like, I'm serious. I'm ready. I'm pumped up, and I could not help but laugh when he did it. And every Saturday, I would look at him and laugh. And after he finished, I think it was a senior, because I think Jimmy was a senior when I was a freshman, I think. And when he left, he looked over at me. He's like, "You got to continue this. You got to say feed it to the dogs when I leave." And I did it, I think, the first few games, and I couldn't do it. I was like, no, I cannot laugh. I can't say this and be serious and be pumped up. I can't be that guy. And so I thought that's just something that stuck with me the whole entire life, that, when he did that, and you just had to, I guess, be there. But he was a crazy guy, and I just loved, the way he went about playing the game. And Jimmy took his job serious. And like I said, I've been throwing out some hate from the kickers. Hopefully they don't listen to this, but they are probably the most, as far as I'm concerned, the most the guys that have to deal with the most high intensity pressure there is. Because as I said, now I know what it's like to be a kicker in a somewhat way, being on a pit crew, because you have, like I said, 5 or 6 opportunities, and you may not even have that in a game with a kicker now. You may have 3. You may have 3 opportunities to make field goals. I'm not counting extra points, and if you miss one of those 3 kicks that could have won the game, you fire the kicker, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's the world they live in, and it's a tough world, and that's the way it works for us too in the NASCAR side of things.
Whether you are selling your property, looking for a new home, or considering investment opportunities, let Crystal Gibson with Powell Real Estate help make the experience a pleasant one. Clemson area native, a lifelong Clemson fan, and a longtime Tiger Illustrated supporter, Crystal's committed to superior service, client satisfaction, and is backed by an agency with over 40 years of service in the Tri-County and Clemson area. Crystal and her family are also good friends of ours. Give Crystal Gibson a call at 864-710-8113 or shoot an email to crystalgibson864@gmail.com to find out how she can make your real estate dreams a reality. Harris Flooring has been a major part of the facilities enhancements over at Clemson, not just with athletics, but also at the university level. And we are thrilled that they are a part of the Dubcast as a sponsor. Since 1947, the Junkins family and Harris Flooring have provided a unique shopping experience through value in their services, developing the right product solutions, and delivering on their promises. To check out some reviews on their work, just go to their Facebook page, Harris Flooring America. Rave reviews, just first class all the way. Phone number 864-642-6183. So back to the NASCAR. So just sort of logistically, did you fly home like last night or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like, one day rodeo clowns basically. So like, we'll jump on a plane, usually the race day. And it's usually early. I think we left at like 6 a.m. and took off, landed in New Hampshire around 8:30 and 7:38. And we'll go from there. We'll jump in vans and we'll go straight to the racetrack. And usually grab some breakfast, set up the pit box on pit road, and get everything ready. Usually takes a couple of 3 hours to do that. And then once everything's ready, it's kind of a waiting game. And you just sit around and wait, man. Hurry up and wait. That's kind of my lifestyle. We get there, eat, get everything ready, get your fire suit on. And by the time you wait around for a couple hours after you set up, it's time for the race. So, and then we as soon as the race is over, we, hurry as fast as we can to break everything down that we set up the morning of. And once we close it all up, they have trucks that come in there and get all that stuff, big trucks. There's probably like 30 or so trucks that come and pack that stuff up and move it to the next track. And we go from there to the airport, jump on the planes and come home. I mean, it's a long, quick day. Sometimes we have to do the Xfinity series too. So we're half and half. So like what I mean by that is we split the Xfinity series up among the Cup teams. So you might have there's 22 races in the Xfinity season. I think maybe actually there's probably 28. There's 28. And each Cup team, so the 9 team with us, which is Chase Elliott's pit crew, will split half that season. So we'll do 14 Xfinity races. They'll do 14. So the only difference is when we do that is we'll go out Saturday mornings and we'll stay in the hotel and then come back Sunday night when we do that. And that's sort of like every other week we'll do that schedule.
Fly private? Commercial?
Yeah. We fly private. We fly chartered. We actually fly a plane service that Clemson was using, which, we were using it obviously long before then. It's called Champion. It's out of Statesville. And the baseball team at Clemson had used it last year, I believe. And some other teams at Clemson were using it. I just can't remember, who was using it. But they fly Georgia baseball, couple small. They can't fly major teams because of the football team because it's not a big enough plane. But there's 50-seater planes, and it's a quality deal. It's they serve a food on there for us, and you pull up to the plane, you got to jump right on. There's no commercial screening. It's just it's a very sweet deal for traveling. And
and so what's the whole COVID thing been like? I talked with Tig about it. I think it was 2 months ago, so a lot's changed since then. But what's the whole thing been like for you and the team and everybody?
Oh, it's been an adjustment for sure, man. I'm not gonna lie about it. When we first got into it, it was a huge adjustment. Wearing the mask all the time, and I'm not complaining because it's safety first, right? It was just different because, you had to just remember to wear it and you had to make sure you were wearing it all times. And, obviously it's the best thing to do to keep everyone safe, but it is definitely a different world right now. I think that, I think everyone's kind of ready for a vaccine to be introduced and to kind of ease this thing down. But, as far as I'm concerned, it's just one of the things that just adds a little adversity to the pot. You know what I mean? It's nothing that it takes me back to Clemson. It takes me back to Brad Scott yelling in my ear and calling me words that I can't repeat on this broadcast.
Yes, you can.
But yeah, I would love to. I tell you, man, the things that he would say to me, I laugh so hard at now, but when I look back at it, I was like, this guy hates me. I'd go home at night and call mom or dad and be like, look, you have no idea how much Coach Scott hates me. And they're like, my dad would be like, look, you have no idea what he's doing. He's trying to prepare you for life. He's trying to make a man out of you. And obviously I didn't believe it at that time. You couldn't tell me that at all. But looking back now, I'm like, man, he really was. Obviously not even now, but as soon as I got out, I was like, this guy's a genius. And so I think back to those times that when he would throw some extra adversity, he would show up one day and just be in a bad mood towards me, and I wouldn't know why. But he was just trying to make me tougher, and those types of things are things that you just deal with. You take those things with you, like this whole COVID situation. I think the best thing anyone can do is just deal with it. Let's just deal with adversity and move on with our lives. And if we have to wear a mask for 3 or 4 hours of the day just to do our jobs, and we were going to do it. It's just part of it.
You were telling me earlier before we started recording this that you had no idea that Tig Willard had joined NASCAR until you actually saw him, I guess, before a race. Is that right?
Yeah, I saw him on pit road. I think it was in Daytona, his first year in it. And, that's usually the time when you see all the new guys that are join the ranks, I guess, if you want to call it that. And I ran across Tig, and I guess I saw him. He was just had started. So he's like on a backup team for Ganassi, and I happened to see him, and man, I was like, man, what are you doing? I had no idea he got into it. And I guess, they love him over there, obviously, where he's at Ganassi, and he's doing well. But, I remember talking to one of the gasmen about him that was a gasman on his team. And, just talked about how nice of a guy he was and easy to be around he was. And I'm like, yeah, that's Tig. So, Tig is one of those guys that he's always in a good mood. He's always going to be positive, and you're never going to run into Tig and feel like, man, I'm just getting, this guy's getting on my, he's such a good dude. And, I think he found a good little place for himself over there. And, he's doing well in it. So I'm happy for him. And Tig, and you may have to refresh my memory. How many years was he in the NFL? He was in the NFL for maybe 3 or 4 years.
I don't think it was that long. I think it was maybe 2 or 3, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I think you might be right. That's 2 or 3. But he did make it. The thing about Tig, and he may get mad at me for saying this, but I never have laughed so hard. And if it follows me, it'll follow me the rest of my life. Every time I see seat covers in a car, I just think about Tig. Tig, we would get our jerseys, at the end of the year. And, most of us, like, I would consider to take the jersey home and put it in our closet. And that's something I'm going to give to my dad or I'm going to frame that and put it in my house one day, right? Or give it to a coach or whatever. Just something I'm not memorable for us. Tig had his jerseys as seat covers in his Dodge Charger, I think. I believe it was a Charger. And I walked out of the parking lot one day and I saw a purple and a white jersey over his first 2 seats. And I'm like, I would never have thought to do that. But I respect the heck out of that guy because he finds a way to use those jerseys, man. I was like, it was just hilarious to me that he used those jerseys as seat covers. And I always tell Tig that when I talk about it. I'm like, dude, you remember that? And it's just something so stupid, but it was funny to me to remember that. About Tig. It's just funny little things you never forget about people.
He actually took advantage of NASCAR's diversity training program to actually join.
He did.
Like quite a few other African Americans, and I've really wondered what the last, I guess, couple of months have been like for him as a traditionally white sport.
Yeah.
has changed sort of. Complexion's a bad word, but not an accurate term. But I guess is. What has it been like for you to be in the middle of that sort of tempest? With the Confederate flag and Bubba Wallace and all that stuff.
Man, that's a great question too. I felt like that. To talk about Tig for a minute. Those guys that that are in the Drive for Diversity program. First off, that's a great program. That's an awesome thing. And for that to be in our sport is such a good thing, because there is, it is a mostly white sport. It's been mostly white for a long time. And why? It's just one of those sports, I guess, it's just naturally rooted in the South. And, the race car drivers have, I guess, mostly been white. I don't really know what the answer is, but, for them to be able to develop a program to introduce, and there's been a ton of pit crew athletes that have been African-American in the last 4 or 5 years since I've been a part of it, that have come along the ranks and done really well. And one of those guys that's with TIG, and he's over there at Ganassi, his name is Mike Metcalf, and he's a big leader of I guess, getting that program started and helping with that program. And TIG's in that group. And, I think it's just cool, man. I really do. I think that, bringing those guys into the sport, it just helps us all. I think it just really does, because, being at, when I was at Clemson, I didn't think much about, I guess, the differences and that's the main thing, is I never really cared about what color, the guy I was playing next to, or what color the guy was in my locker room, because in the game of football, you learn to just bleed and sweat and love whoever your brother is in that locker room. And the color of the guy beside, I played next to Antoine McLean for most of my career, and David Smith and those types of guys, and Chris Harrison, I played on the team with him. And, not once did I really ever think to myself, the difference in color made a difference between, what we were as individuals. It just never, those things never kind of popped out to me. But anyway, I don't want to get lost in it, but, back to the sport, I think that NASCAR is kind of more developed into a locker room that it should have been the whole time, especially the pit crew guys. I think having more black guys in it, and the fact that they're definitely a huge part of what we do now is awesome. It really is. I think that having them involved in it and having, it just makes it more like that locker room feel for me. I feel like it gives it that Clemson feel, and that locker room feel I had in high school. And you don't really care what color the guy is beside you. You just play ball and you work together, and you make, you try to create the best, outcome you can with what you're doing.
So in addition to doing what you're doing with NASCAR, you own a trucking company?
Yeah, I do actually. I got into the trucking company after I left Clemson, and it was kind of a weird thing, because Larry, I don't know if you know a guy named Jason McDonald, he's kind of involved at Clemson. He used to be kind of in the booster program, but he's a super nice guy that I got to know. He was buddies with Chad Deal, and he was a FedEx contractor, and I met him at Clemson, and I got to know him and his family really well, just really great people. And Jason really just sort of taught me a little bit about his business while I was there, a little bit of FedEx knowledge, and kind of got me very interested in it. And the most intriguing thing for me was the fact that Jason was, basically worked from his office, or worked from home, his home office, and his cell phone. I mean, he never had to go to an office. He had his business and did what he wanted to do. And, he had to deal with his business on the side all the time, but he never had to be at an 8-to-5 job. And that was really intriguing to me. So I always kept in touch with Jason, and we've kind of stayed in touch till this point, and still really good friends with Jason. And as I said, the fact that, he really brought me along and kind of trained me in the business. So at my third year NASCAR, I really had a desire to do something more to prepare myself for life after NASCAR, whenever that does happen. And so I got into the trucking business. I actually bought a few tractors for Amazon at that point, and slowly started to gradually, create my own business. And I just thought that was a good opportunity at that point to kind of get in and figure it out, because I had more time during the week after my second or third year to monitor a business and really kind of learn about what I was doing. And you know what? I had another job, so I kind of looked at it as, hey, if I fail at this, I still have a job. So I'm not it just made sense to me to do it then instead of waiting till I was done with NASCAR and try something. And so I slowly started to grow the business, and I've grown it to now the fact that I have a business partner down here in Charlotte. I'm in FedEx, and I run with Amazon too, still, but not as much as I do FedEx now. And it's a major part of my life. My wife runs our business full time, it's been really good to us. We're very blessed to be in the business and really have an opportunity to, like I said, to not have to work at a job that requires us to answer to someone every day. We answer to ourselves, and we know what we have to do in order for us to be successful.
You said at the beginning that you bought a couple of trucks for a couple of tractors for Amazon. What does that mean?
Yes. So, Amazon was one of the Greenville, South Carolina was one of the first distribution centers to open up in our area, in our southeastern region. And when Amazon really started to hit it big, which was, they were already pretty big then, but they weren't as big as they are now. And they were really starting to get into the delivery business. And so they were bringing on contractors from FedEx, which I wasn't a FedEx contractor, to run tractor and trailers for them. So they own their own trailers, but you had to buy a tractor in order to do that. So I bought, 2 tractors. Actually, I bought 3, I think, that time. Hired a few drivers and told them that I was, kind of at their disposal. What we had to do to get runs and make deliveries for them. So like line haul work is, running those tractors from Greenville to Columbia to Charlotte to Atlanta, and a lot of it was Atlanta at that time, and you still run Atlanta quite a bit. But that triangle there, that trifecta, was the biggest of our runs when I first got into it.
How much does a tractor cost typically?
Oh man, it varies. It varies. You can spend anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000, depending on what you want. So I didn't spend $100,000. I'll say that. When I first got into it, I think my first couple were around the 20s, just because they were used tractors, and you don't have to spend a ton of money to get one rolling. But the thing about it's kind of like a car. So if you buy a brand new vehicle, it's probably going to be, a few years before you have any issues out of it, but you're eventually going to have some problems. If you buy a used vehicle, you're probably going to put more money into it at the beginning, but you're just going to have problems like anything else. So that's kind of the way I've always viewed it. The newer you buy it, you may have a little bit of downtime before it really starts messing up, but eventually everything breaks down.
Is that the biggest headache? Maintenance and.
It can be, yes. I think it can be, but I won't say it's the biggest headache. I think one of the bigger headaches is really managing it and trying to really learn how to manage people. And I feel pretty confident about my abilities in that now. That was a headache for me initially because I definitely had to learn not just how to manage people, but I had to learn how to manage truck drivers. There's a difference, they're a different breed than a normal employee, and everybody's different, right? Based on what you do as far as your job. And so I really had to learn how they manage themselves and how they work and how they talk to each other. And, just everything about a truck driver is, and everybody's different, so you have to just learn what makes a truck driver happy. I know that sounds silly, but little things like that just make the business roll. You have to really know what to do for incentives and things like that just really come along with the whole territory.
How many drivers do you have?
We currently have around 35.
Wow.
Yeah. So we built it to, it's a good business. I'm actually, like I said, my business partner is in Cherryville, and I'm actually buying him out of his business, and he's built it up quite big, and I'm partnered with him. So we have together 35 drivers together.
How are truck drivers a different breed?
They are not as much as their personalities are different. So the thing about a truck driver is, okay, most people that go to 8 to 5 jobs that, or like you and I that like to talk to people all day and have different things going on, and your job is to interview and talk to people and get the story. You're busy with all day. Think about a truck driver. He's driving all day. And what do you do when you drive? You think, and that can be an issue, because what is it? A person that sits in the truck and they think about how much more money they can make, or what other jobs they could be doing, and then you really are always battling your brain to say, hey, look, just don't worry about it. Well, you know what I mean? That's not a big deal, and things that really aren't big deals become bigger deals, because, like I said, those are the types of guys that sit in their tractor all day, and they think, and that issue that they're not really having one to talk about becomes bigger than it should be. And so you really become a pretty good psychiatrist dealing with truck drivers. Wow. Marriage counselors, I'm a little bit of everything. I got a couple of different hats in the closet for that kind of thing.
So even though your wife is the president and doing a lot of this stuff, you still have your hand in it in a pretty big way.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I'm more managing drivers. She's more managing me. I guess that's the best terminology, but no, she does a lot of the hiring, getting the paperwork and all that stuff submitted, which is a pain if you don't know what you're doing. And she just keeps the logs straight with the DOT. And there's a ton of stuff that you have to do just to stay on the road. And she keeps a lot of that stuff together for us. And, she's the backbone. She's the office alignment of the company for sure. She's definitely in the trenches, just, doing whatever she can do to keep this thing rolling. And I feel like I have the easy part. So she definitely has the harder part of the job.
And y'all have kids, right?
We do have kids. We have a 19-month-old girl, and we have a boy on the way in October. So, we're due October the 15th-ish, I believe. So,
excellent.
Yeah, man. We definitely have a lot of fun coming our way.
Now, is the trucking, is it something that you can shut it down at 6 o'clock at night, or are you getting calls? Are you getting calls at all hours?
I wish, man. I wish I could shut it down at 6. No, we definitely get calls all the time, because we have daytime runs and we have nighttime runs. So, we could get called at any time, just based on what's going on, and we've kind of gotten used to that. It's been one of those things that, over time we've really developed how to manage it at night, because, it doesn't always, at first it was definitely a headache. But it's become something that we've gotten used to, dealing with these drivers. During the day is pretty easy, but like I said, at night, you may get a call at 3 a.m. to wake you up, and you just got to go back to sleep once you deal with it. Just part of it. And most of the time, knock on wood, it can be an easy call as of, hey, I just need to address this real quick, and then I'm done for the night.
What's the typical call you get at 3 a.m.? Like, what's it about?
Most of the time it's because a driver may have to wait at a certain location, and he should have probably gotten out before that, I guess, if you know what I'm saying. Like he's been held up too long, and we need to update his logs in order for us to keep him legal, because waiting is drivers have clocks, I guess, and they can only wait for a certain amount of time, and that clock is rolling all night, and if they get held up too long, then you have to make adjustments to their clock and their time schedule in order to keep everything legal.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah, it's very fascinating.
Fascinating for me. Easy for me to say. I'm just listening to it. Well,
it's honestly it is, man. It really is. It's really cool to get into the business. I think that, like I said, once Kristy and I kind of got into it and started understanding it, and I'm still learning every day, something new. And after being in it for since 2015, I'm still learning things that I had no idea. Whether a truck may break down and I don't know that this part could break, or something may happen with a driver that I've actually never heard of. So there's just things that I don't know. You really don't expect sometimes. It's just having to deal with and roll with the punches.
You touched on this earlier, saying that your first couple of years out of football, you didn't really, it was hard to watch, but I'm wondering in recent years, more recently, how closely are you following the Tigers?
Yes. Yeah. I've been following them a lot, man. And not just because they've had such great success, with the national championships and things that's happened with the program, but it's become more of, I don't know how to say it. It's just become more of my life. You know, I think that I think a lot of probably players could attest to this, but you think back at the times that you had in college and you think about, you know, I wish there was a way for us to know when you were actually in the good old days, because if that was you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the good old days. And, you know, when we had no worries, no stress, and I thought I was stressed out. You know, that's the thing that gets me now, is I thought that I had a lot of things to worry about at that time with class and football and, you know, dealing with a coach that was getting after me that day, or dealing with a game plan that I was having to worry about and then have a test the next morning. But that's easy. You know, if I could go back and know what I know now, you know, you just would appreciate it a little bit more. And I'm probably not the only guy that probably would say that. But like I said, I just wish I could know now what I knew then, or know now, and take it back to there. So I don't know, man. But like I said, it's just one of them deals that looking back, every time I watch the Tigers play, it makes me think about my times there and the good times that I had with the guys that I played with. And, you know, you can take all the games, honestly, and you could combine them, and I probably could remember 5 things out of the games that happened. But we could sit here and talk about locker room stuff all night, because that's what I truly miss, was the guys in the locker room and the bus rides and the fun we had going to the games and in practice, the things that we would, you know, just off the wall things that we would do. And just, you know, that's the things that I'll take with me the rest of my life.
What do you make of, I mean, did you think that this was possible, 2 national championships in 4 years and college football playoff every single year? It seems like not just the last 5 years, but probably feels like that's never going to end.
No, I hate to sit here and say it's not possible, because I don't want to act like I didn't believe in Coach Sweeney and what he was doing. But to have the success that they had in such a short amount of time, it's fantastic. And you know, I think it's obviously a testimony to the person he is, that he's put the people around him, you know, he has. And I think, in my opinion, you know, the hardest thing of being a head coach is getting the right people to work for you. It's like being a company owner, so to speak, except for, you know, you really, to win a national championship, the guys that you have in your office and the guys that you have in your coaches meetings, they're the guys that are going to, you know, put it on their back. Because they're what, you know, recruiting for you, and the game planning and the extra work that goes into all the games that they win. Man, it's like I said, it's just a testament to what he's done as a coach to get those guys that he's got. You know, Burton Venables, those types of guys. I mean, you don't just run across a guy like that. You know what I mean? That's a guy who wants to play for somebody like Coach Sweeney.
What do you remember from that day in October of 2008 when Bowden was out and Dabo was in? Like, when did you first, like, where were you? I'm assuming maybe in class or something when you first heard that Tommy was out.
I was walking back from class to my apartment and in Lightsey Bridge, and we just got out of class, and the media kind of had just released it. I think it just had came out, and obviously it was one of those deals that, you know, we got to find out as a team after the fact that it leaked, unfortunately. But I don't think that the media could have kept that thing in. You know, it was just one of those things that when it hit, it just leaked, and it happened, and it is what it is. But you know, it was definitely a weird feeling for me, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know Coach Sweeney. You know, I didn't know him very well. I knew him as a coach on the team, and I knew that we had some words and been around him a little bit here and there, but the interactions was very, very far and few between. You know, because he was receivers coach, and you just don't really deal with receivers that much as an offensive lineman. You know, you're kind of blocking and hoping they're going to catch the ball. So, you know, you don't deal with the coach, especially the coach's receivers. You know, not to say I didn't have respect for what he did, but just didn't have a lot of interaction with him. So anyway, when he got the job, I was very unsure of my future, to be quite honest with you, because I didn't know what Coach Sweeney thought of me, and I didn't know what he knew about me at that point in my career, and I didn't know what I was going to be in for, to be quite honest with you. I didn't know what he was going to be like as a coach. A lot of uncertainty, to be honest with you. A lot of uncertainty, and a lot of it was a scary time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you know, conventional wisdom would have suggested at the time that if you get rid of Bowden and you are going to promote somebody to an interim position from the staff, you had two former head coaches on that staff in Brad Scott, who coached you, of course, and then Vic
Yep.
Koenig. Was it a surprise that maybe Brad wasn't the guy? Was it a surprise at the time, I guess?
I think so. I think that, as I said, having the few interactions I had with Coach Sweeney, it was just, I guess there was so much more to Coach Sweeney that was behind the scenes for me than meets the eye. And, having not known what was really there. And I feel like, Coach Scott was one of the biggest supporters of Coach Sweeney when he got the job. I mean, I remember being in a meeting room and him saying directly to us that this is a guy that can lead this program. And this is a young guy that is going to bring a lot of excitement. And I remember that specifically. And when he said that, I was kind of, I was like, really? Because like I said, I didn't know him that well. And so, the things that Coach Scott was willing to say about Coach Sweeney really kind of, gave me some optimism and some sense of belief in the system. And because, it was an unsure time. As I said, uncertainty was very high. There's a lot of guys, and I don't ever want to give names up, but a lot of guys that were talking about transferring and not really knowing what to do, and I think that's pretty normal for a program when that happens. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of guys that just, they don't know what's going to happen with their playing time and with their future there. So I think that was a big question mark until Coach Sweeney took the reins and really brought us together as a team. And he's a leader. He's a natural born leader. And I think that when he brought us and I think the biggest moment of his first year was that South Carolina game when he knew, and I think the rest, every one of us knew that he had the job after that. But, it was just a very eye-opening moment for us all when that happened.
So interesting. You bring it up, or you talk about it in that perspective. Dawson mentioned that same thing, that like the sort of romanticized, movie version of Dabo taking over is, okay, Bowden's out, and then later that day, Dabo has the meeting and says, if you're not all in, get out, and everybody who's all in, that he sold every single person on the team that day, the day that he took over, and that everything was different from that point. But that's just not the reality. And Dawson mentioned that, it took a significant period of adjusting for a number of the guys because Dabo did things so differently, including like, the long meetings, like, wait a minute, we're not used to this. And chewing out the punter, for loafing off the field and just the more sort of disciplinary approach as he was trying to impose his first sort of footprints on the program, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are things the great points that Dawson made and you guys made that really stick out to me now that I think about it, because when Coach Sweeney, because the big thing for Coach was running off the field and running on the field, and because it was have purpose with what you do, and that's Coach. That's a big point of Dabo Sweeney coaching 101 was purpose, and that stuck out to me initially was his purpose thing was how he said, and it as an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, do we really have to run off the field? But now looking back as a 31-year-old man, I'm like, you're damn right. We got to run off the field. And that's part of it. That's part of it. And I respect the fact that Coach really, I don't know. he brought that to Clemson. Not saying that and here's what I get lost in with all of this. A lot of people think that maybe Coach Bowden wasn't as disciplined, or Coach Sweeney was way more disciplined than Coach Bowden. I don't necessarily look at it like that. Coach Bowden had a structured way we did things, and everybody knew their job, and everybody knew that there was a standard. And don't get me wrong, Coach Sweeney has different a perspective on the way he coached, and it was different than Coach Bowden's, but there was no lack of discipline. I don't want that to be a thing at all. There was definitely no lack of discipline. Bowden had his standards, and we all met them. And I just think that maybe at some point in time along the end of his career there was some sort of lull to sleep at least. And maybe the excitement wasn't as high, with what we had that time. And, just the thing that we needed was a Coach Sweeney. We needed a guy with maybe a little more excitement that brought a little more energy. And I think that's what happened. Like I said, there was definitely no lack of discipline, but it came with Coach Sweeney for sure. I think that his pep and his energy was much needed. It came at a good time. And I think that was the main proponent of what he brought to the program.
Was that South Carolina game in 2008, was that the moment you said this guy is something special, or did that moment come later?
I think the moment really came at Boston College. I believe it was his second second game. That moment really came there when we beat Boston College. And we kind of had a team that was capable, of course, of beating Boston College. We weren't good enough to beat nobody. We expected to beat Boston College. But, to come in there with a coach and a brand new coach and a brand new way of doing things and to win a game against Boston College really said a lot about him bringing us together. And I think that was a stepping stone in the right direction. When we beat Boston College, it really started to kind of raise my eyebrow a little bit and say, okay, well, I think that we've got something here that we're going to roll with. And South Carolina was kind of like icing on the cake in my mind. I kind of already knew in my mind that this was going to probably be our guy, our new coach. But because I guess at that time I just couldn't fathom anybody else leading the program. I'd gotten so used to Sweeney, and I knew Coach Scott so well as my position coach. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to see a change at that level. And so knowing that Coach Sweeney would be our guy was a positive reinforcement for me to know I got to keep my position coach. And so, I knew I liked where I was at that time. And I think a lot of people did once we got on a little bit of a roll and started to have some success. And just, we felt good about where we were.
What's your favorite memory from your playing days? Doesn't have to be a game.
It doesn't have to be a game. No. Well, golly, one of my favorite memories, I got probably one or two, but one of my favorite memories was, one of my best friends from Clemson was Willy Korn. And, I don't know if you knew that or not, but, Willy and I were pretty tight. And so we had this thing that we were going to run down the hill and do the DX deal. I was going to do the suck it, and he was going to do the arms above his head, and he was going to blow water out of his mouth. And I don't know if you've seen the picture. It's out there. But have you seen that before?
I don't think I have.
You got to pull it up, man. You got to pull it up. It's probably one of the most, in my opinion, and it's very biased, it's the best hill picture out there. But that's my biased opinion. It's the best. But if you got the computer pulled up, you need to pull it up. But so we decided to do this. All right. The funny thing about it was against Florida State in 2009. So I was a redshirt sophomore. And like I said, we were going to do it. And so we got in the bus to go around the hill. And, like I said, Willie was going to blow the water out of his mouth to make the pitcher look better. That was the whole point. And he's a clown. I don't know how much you know about Willie, but he was a clown. And the fact that he decided to pour the water, to put the water in his mouth when we got on the bus to go around the hill instead of just taking a bottle with him and doing it right before, was probably the most epic thing ever. So I get on the bus and I look over at him. I was like, "Were you doing this?" And he had a mouthful of water and couldn't talk. So the entire bus ride around the hill, he's got a mouthful of water. And I'm like, Willie, what is it you doing, man? You could have took a bottle of water with you. And, dude, I'm telling you, I was laughing like a hyena before and I was so focused, so don't take that out of context. But I was ready to go. But we knew we wanted to do this because so Willie had a guy there. I guess he had done some Burns pictures before, and he was going to take the pitch. Well, we got up, we almost ran. It was probably the most compassionate run down the hill you've ever seen, because we almost kind of held hands before we waited for a gap. Okay. There was a gap in front of us, like enough, probably maybe we gave it 10 yards so the guys could jump and go in front of us. And we went to the hump in the hill and we jumped up and we did our deal. And he was like, do you think we got it? He's like, yeah, I think it went well. I think it would, because we had to get it together. And so we get done, and like on Monday, he's like, man, the guy didn't get, he sends me the picture, and it was terrible. It was terrible. It was not the picture we wanted. And it was not the picture. And somehow another photographer got the picture, and it was killer. And he got exactly what we wanted. And somehow it made its way on the internet. And we were like, dude, you need to check your email right now. Like I don't texted him. And we figured out that the picture was there, and it was like, and everybody has started posting it. Like, I don't know how it got it. It kind of just made its way through our program. Coach Napier was like, Walker, what is you doing running down the hill? And I'm like, I was like, Coach, we had that plan, man. He's like, Walker, I'm going to put that picture in my office, and he did. But it was so funny, man, just that whole experience. And like I said, it was a game, but it wasn't a game because it was something centered around, because I think that was the thing for us. Like, everybody that played on the team wanted a cool hill picture. It's like, I got to get a good picture while I'm here in my 4 or 5 years, whatever, from running down the hill. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, jumping up or just running and just being the guy in the front or whatever it is. I'm got to be the guy. And so we made history for ourselves, I guess.
And you said DX?
Yeah, DX, like the DX from the WWE. Like,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, just type in. Let me see here. Let me type it in and see what I get. I think you could probably.
I'm looking for it now. I can't find it.
If you don't have it, I have it, so I could probably send it to you.
Okay.
Let me just type in both of our names. Let's see if it pops up.
I bet you the Willy Korn and Chuck Norris thing will pop up first.
The first thing that pops up is actually him and I at the ladies' clinic back in. There it is. Just type it up.
I got the picture up.
Oh yeah, did you see that? It's pretty awesome, huh? You've never seen that?
You know what? My memory's bad, so I probably did.
Man, that picture right there is epic, huh?
That's perfect.
Like I said, you see him spit the water out of his mouth?
Yeah. It's almost like smoke.
The whole way around the hill, dude. He had it in his mouth the entire way. That was the funniest thing of all time. The fact that he could not swallow it was a miracle. And you see Dawson Zimmerman over there on my right shoulder, how small he looked. He looked so tiny. Like Dawson was probably a buck. He might have been a $180 right there. It looks so tiny right there. I gotta call that guy. It's been too long since I've talked to him, but yeah, Dawson was my roommate, so I definitely had some Dawson Zimmerman times for sure.
What number? Oh, was Zimmerman 92? No,
he was. So he was he was 96, right? So he's right up there.
Gosh, way up there over your left shoulder. Yeah,
it looks like he's wearing the smallest shoulder pad. It looks like he's wearing a pair of shoulder pads from like Walmart.
Looks like he didn't dress out.
It looks like he definitely dressed out. So that's to show you how small his shoulder pads are. I love it.
How do you think? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, how do you think Willie handled? I mean, people who weren't around back then don't understand just the celebrity that accompanied him to Clemson, and then,
oh my God,
dealing with that, and then the coaching change, and then I guess it was his shoulder. He had to have shoulder surgery, I think it was.
Yeah, he had to have labrum surgery. and I think that how he dealt with it, he dealt with everything like a very, very mature, 18-year-old. Willie was very, I never thought, that's the first thing I thought of that guy was he's so mature and he's really got it figured out. And I never felt like he took anything to his head. There was no cockiness about him. There was no, there was no sense of a rival, I guess, of old terminology of football. There was no sense of I made it already. Will was such a great human being that I think it was just very hard to get in his head, to be honest with you. And he was such a hard worker. And I think where he developed his work ethic and his style of play was I think that's where he really got his name and built his name from where he did at Burns, because if you watch some of his film at Burns, it's incredible with what he was doing in high school. Just some of the plays that they were running and the offense that was very, very complicated for a kid, his stats doing that. But, man, I fell in love with him and he was my best friend when he first got to Clemson. I felt like he was such a guy that I looked up to. He actually called me when I committed to Clemson, and I felt like I was talking to a 25-year-old. I was like, this guy is he's got life figured out, and I was like, man, I can get behind a guy like that. And he was just happy that I was coming to Clemson and really was positive about, I think Willie had a lot in common with like a Trevor Lawrence. Willie and Trevor seem a lot alike to me, and I've never met Trevor. But I've heard a lot of things about him being a great leader and obviously a great human being. And he just seems like he really has, that maturity to him. And that reminds me of Willie. So I think that the way he handled everything, man, the guy had no shot, to be honest with you. He had no shot because people never gave him an opportunity to figure it out. And I'm not taking any digs at coaches or anybody else, but I'm just saying that the build up it was impossible. The guy never had an opportunity to be himself. And that's what's really stands out to me was he had all the tools, and he could have probably, unfortunately, that shoulder surgery put him behind the eight ball. And I think that you go back and he didn't have the shoulder surgery, I think we're not even having this conversation. I don't think he ever really gained back his arm strength like he wanted to there really quickly. He gained it back, but I don't think it was as quick as he wanted to. Right. So that was tough. That was tough to see my best friends kind of struggle through all that. And, to leave Clemson, that was tough for me to see him leave Clemson. That was tough because, I really had a lot. He was a good person to talk to about everything when something wasn't going right at school for me or whatever, ball or girls, whatever it may be, man, he was my guy. And so, that was tough when he left Clemson for sure.
If you're a business owner and your business involves credit card processing, you need to reach out to Tandem Innovative Payment Solutions. A lot of different ways that Tandem can improve your bottom line by shaving off some of those expenses. In addition to processing credit card payments, Tandem also manages inventory, schedules staff, tracks sales, gains insight into customers, and gets transaction reports. With Tandem, you're not a number, you're a neighbor. Learn more about Tandem at tandempayment.com. Happy to have Founders Federal Credit Union on board as a sponsor with us. If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Matt Gross is a proud Clemson alum and the vice president for the Clemson market for Founders Federal Credit Union. Matt's office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. If you're in the Eastern Midlands and PD area and you're in any way interested in buying and selling a home, commercial property, land, need to consider reaching out to Uptown Realty. They're based out of Sumter and run by a friend of mine, Patrick Enzer, big Clemson guy, used to cover the Tigers in a newspaper capacity, longtime supporter of Tiger Illustrated, longtime listener to the Dubcast. The home buying process should be an enjoyable experience, so let Patrick and his staff do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 803-774-0435 or go to uptownrealtysc.com. What's your take on the 2020 season taking place amid the pandemic and kind of the subject of the summer?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but man, it's so hard to envision a fall season without football. And as every Clemson fan and probably player and coach out there probably wants this to happen as much as anyone. But, as we're always taught in college and in sports and things, that you can only control what you can control. And I think we really have to look at that and really believe it now more than ever, because, what can you really do in your control to play a game? You can practice and you can prepare and you can put a game plan in, but if the odds are stacked against you and this thing, it seems like it may or may not allow us to have a football season. I don't know. I think that as we talk, there's just things that have to be in place, I think, and there's still probably things they got to figure out between now and September. But, I think there's definitely an opportunity. And I really, really, really hope so, because I think that, whatever it is, whatever sort of play we have will be better than no play.
If you were a player, would there be any doubt in your mind about wanting to play?
I have to say no, there wouldn't be. But I'll tell you this. I'm a little old school. I'm a little old school, and I don't want to act like this pandemic is not real, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about our health, because we should be. And, every player that doesn't want to play has a right to not play, and that's their decision. First and foremost, I mean, as an athlete, you have to be able to make the decision that you want to play and you feel like it's a safe environment. But I've always been the type of guy that just had to live his life, and, whatever you want, however you want to take that and perceive it, I would be playing. And I think a lot of guys would be playing too. And I'm not trying to put the game above health and safety concerns, because obviously that's first and foremost. If it's a safe environment and it's allowable and it's not going to cause any detrimental downfall to the university, I think it would be in the conference. I think that there should be football. And, I think as long as it's a safe situation for the players, then there should be football. And like I said, obviously you want to see safety first, as anyone does. You want to see a high, the players tested and know what they're getting themselves into. Because, I mean, look, no one wants to go out there and put players and student athletes in a dangerous environment where they feel like that they're going to contract this disease if they play against another team and there's another team that may have it. But like I said, I think that the testing is going to be in place, and I'm hoping that there's a way to keep these guys safe. And I think if there is a way to do that, and if they can come up with a good reason to do that, then I think there should be football.
Landon Walker, what a fun conversation. Anything we didn't cover that we need to?
Man, I enjoyed it, brother. I really did. I think that we covered a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything I got on my mind. I do remember our post practice conversations, and those are one thing I'll never forget. Those are my 15 minutes of fame in my life that you guys made me feel like I was important. I think it's funny looking back at that now, and because it's funny seeing these race car drivers with cameras in their faces and microphones in their faces as soon as they get out of the race car, and I'm walking back to the garage with my fuel cans behind me, and I don't have that. But the fact that I got that, I got it in college, and at Clemson, you guys in media make those players and made us feel like we were somebody. And man, I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate the fact that you gave me that opportunity to come from a small school in a small town in North Wilkesboro to come to that level and feel like I was somebody, for 5 years of my life, man. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Wouldn't trade it for anything. So I appreciate you, brother, that you guys in the media, made us feel like we were something.
Anybody ever misquote you, or did you ever read something you're like, man, I didn't say it that way? What's he?
I felt like most of the time when I got quoted, it actually helped me. I don't mean like I mean that in a good way. Like it actually made me sound like a little more intelligent.
Cleaned up your grammar.
A little bit cleaned up my grammar a little bit, and I noticed it, and I'm like, thank you. And I felt to myself like, thank you for doing that. So I never really felt like I was upset at a reporter for doing that. No, I think that most of the time if I said anything, it was on me. I think that I had a few times that I said some stuff that that wasn't really probably the best thing to say at that time. I remember specifically after NC State lost, we lost NC State my senior year. I said that they didn't belong on the field with us, and I don't think it really like made headline news or anything. But as soon as I said it, it came out of my mouth, and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that, but I did because I was upset because we lost, and obviously they belonged on the field with us because they wore us out that day, and we probably didn't belong on the field with them the way we played, but. I think that it's funny because you, as a kid, you have such a, not just as a kid, as a competitor, I hated losing like anybody else. And sometimes you just spout off without realizing what you're saying.
Did anybody, Dabo or anybody call you out for saying that?
I don't remember Coach making a huge deal out of it. He may have mentioned it in a team meeting as we got to give respect to the teams that wear us out. And if they wear us out, you got to fold and say, hey, they beat us every which way, and there's nothing we did to do anything about it. But I don't remember ever getting like pulled us on the side and saying, hey, we can't do this anymore. It was just more of a hey, like, hey man, come on, you got to give these guys credit where credit's due. And it's true, you do, you really do. And I knew better, but like I said, there's just little things like that I might have done along the way that you learn from. You know that, hey, I got to be more respectful to a team that just wore us out and they wore us out that day. So, that was a crappy game. Obviously, that's still in my mind, I guess.
How does I guess that 11 season was just a roller coaster, and you guys were that was y'all's first time handling that the spotlight, and y'all were probably too young or I guess as a team, not you. But the program itself, I'm just looking back, like how you go from 8-0, top 5, the bottom balls out at Georgia Tech, and then get smoked barely beat Wake at home. I mean, I think people forget how fortunate you guys were. You talk about the value of a kicker to win that game and win the division, and then get dismantled down in Columbia, then turn around when nobody's expecting you to win, and then you take apart Virginia Tech in the ACC, and then the 70 33 in the Orange Bowl. Just what a wild roller coaster ride that was.
I can't do nothing but laugh now, but at that time, it was a roller coaster. It certainly was, because I think we were actually 8th in the country when we lost to State, right?
Yeah.
You may have better memory. That was our first loss, right? That year.
Georgia Tech was the first. It was that y'all were like, I think, number 5. Y'all were 8-0 and went to Atlanta and lost to.
That's right.
Paul Johnson's crew.
The triple option, man. I think that was such a thorn in our side when I was there. Thank God that's not existent anymore as much as it was then. But man, you just knew when you played Georgia Tech that it was going to be a freaking barn burn, and they were going to do everything they could do to keep the offense off the field. And that's what stunk about it was, if you could put up points, you had to do it then. And if it was more pressure for the offense than anything, because you felt like the whole time, like if we're not scoring early, we're in trouble. I always felt that way. And I don't know why, because I knew that their offense could run the clock down. And, I don't want to say that I was worried as far as like not doing my job. I was out there busting my tail, but it's just like, you knew that if a series was 3 and out, it was like, man, we can't do this a lot. And so, anyway, that season though, man, it was such an up and down year. And I think that we as a team felt like we really had a great opportunity to do a lot more than we did. And it stinks that we look back at it now and, you had the losses that we did, especially the last one, my God. But to say that those games were a building block, you can't take that away from what we did. And I think that, the game, even the West Virginia loss, I think that was such a trampoline, if you will, for what Clemson has done, because I think that was a gut check for the Sweeney era to say, hey, we're either going to go, and kind of just not be the team that I want us to be, or we're going to go down this road of losing these games that we're supposed to be there to win big time. Right. And, I think that the Sweeney obviously took the high road. I think he took the advantage of that opportunity after that Orange Bowl loss, and golly, they just tremendously rebounded. And I wish I could have been a part of it, because God knows I hate that was my last game. And I'm sure a lot of us do. But that's why you play the game, man. It doesn't always go the way you want it to. And West Virginia had our number that night, and that's just part of life.
Who was the toughest guy to block?
The toughest guy that I probably ever played against, and this, you're not even going to believe this, and a lot of people don't. I played against Derek Morgans and the Sues from Nebraska. As a freshman, I played against Sue. But I'll never forget this guy, and you may remember him.
TCU?
Jerry Hughes was good. Okay, Jerry Hughes was good, but I'm telling you, he was not the best. I played against some of the guys that don't get me wrong. I hate to discredit practice every day with Daquan Bowers and Andre Branch and those types of cats that were, made me better. But as far as the game, there's a cat named Matt Robinson, and he was a short white guy that played at Wake Forest. And I say short, he wasn't 6'6". He was 6'1" or 6'2". And he was probably 245. He was built like a Luke Kuechly. And he made my night in Winston-Salem a living hell. It was a redshirt freshman year for me. And, it was just one of them games. And, it's hard to compare that to being a redshirt senior, because obviously I knew a lot more as a redshirt senior than I did as a freshman. But Matt Robinson showed up at that game, and he was like a 6-year senior, because the guy had like 2 or 3 knee surgeries. And he, not to say he whipped me all over the field, because I don't think that happened, but the guy had a motor that ran till the game was over and then some. And I've never played a player like that ever. You know what I mean? I've played players that just, gave it their all. I'm not saying that they didn't, but this guy just never quit. And it was just every play I was like, man, I don't know what he's going to do this time. Like, I was just, because he had so many different technique and moves that he used, and he definitely made me better that night. I'll say that.
Y'all scored 7 points. Wake won with 12 points that night. That
was the night Tommy Bowden was fired, man.
Yep. That was the
last Coach Tommy Bowden game there. Matt Robinson was a player, though, and that was Wake Forest. They were actually competitive then.
Oh, they were good. They were good.
They
team.
won the ACC championship. Was it year before that or
the
2
year
years
before?
That?
Yeah, year before.
So that was a good football team. And unfortunately, you can't lose to Wake Forest at Clemson. I think that's part of kind of like it's in our code, right? But you don't. I mean, you just can't. Right? I mean, it's just Clemson. I think that obviously we don't want to lose to anyone, because we're such a. I feel like we carry such a. I don't know, the way we do things at Clemson. We feel like we are the school, right? In the ACC, we are got to be the school, and I feel like if you lose to an ACC school, you feel like you just didn't have a good year, So I don't know. I've always been pretty confident that we're going to beat Wake Forest, and and we didn't, and it was I think everybody had that frown on their face that night.
Actually, it was 2 years before that they won the ACC. It was 2006.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was I'll tell you, good football team though, really good football team, and their defense was that high energy, high motor defense.
And Spiller was hurt that night. Yeah, and you could argue if he's healthy, that's the difference in the game. You guys win.
You could definitely
And then Bowden lasts till the end of the year, and Dabo never has a chance to audition for the job.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. I never put that together. I forgot about Spiller being out that game. But, yeah, what happens there? What happens there? I think that who knows? Who knows if they make an interim coach? Who knows if they go out and make an outside hire? Which, you kind of think that may have happened. But, man, what a turn of events, and what the things happened the way they did, because that was the way it was supposed to happen. And I'm glad that Coach Sweeney is the guy. And, I've never heard more controversy as far as surrounding a head coach, as far as people that love him, people that may not love him. But, man, I love everything about that guy. And I look back on my time, and, I respect everything he did for me, and the opportunity he gave me, there, and the coaches that he put around himself and the team to make us better. That was what I respected him the most for.
Landon Walker, your time is valuable, so I'll let you get back to your family. And
yes,
man, this
sir.
has been a fun conversation. I'll try
Absolutely.
to keep in better touch.
Yeah, you do that, please, and let's not make it so long until we do this again. Let's maybe get together this football season and talk about a game or something. I'd love to give you the play-by-play of what I think on a Saturday afternoon.
That sounds like a plan.
All right, brother, let's do it, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. It was awesome.
All right, Landon Walker, great dude. Great conversation. Appreciate his company. Appreciate all y'all listening. Appreciate our 7 sponsors for all their support. Please support them as much as you can, in addition to all the local businesses in your area that you know and love. Also, stay tuned to TigerIllustrated.com today, for the rest of the weekend, for the rest of the several weeks of camp. Plenty of stuff coming. And, of course, the $1 special going on. $1 for a year. Pretty cool. Everybody be good.